Hi everyone, this is Kimberly from Kimberly's Fabric Stash, and welcome to our Lucky Gnomes You Are class for this week. And we were originally going to do a live video, but we've decided to do a recording today. So you are in the right place, and this is the class that we're going to be working on this evening. And I think you'll really enjoy it. You must have the pattern though to participate in the class. So if you don't have the pattern and you'd like to get one, you can go over to Patchabilities.com and type in Lucky and download an immediate PDF version of this for yourself. And make sure not to share it with friends because that's how Patchability supports their family. So we want to make sure that we get their pattern. I'm going to be showing you basically how to put everything together, the applique, the whole 9 yards, but I will not be referencing the actual measurements for the cutting of the strips to make the background, etc., etc. So again, this is Kimberly from Kimberly's Fabric Stash, and you can find us on a couple different places on our website at kimberlysfabrics.com. And we have an Instagram page, it's Kimberly's Fabric Stash, as well as a Pinterest page. Of course, you're probably watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, so obviously you know we're on Facebook and YouTube. And every Friday at 10 a.m. we send out a weekly newsletter. And if you would like to get that weekly newsletter, go ahead and type in pitsewing@gmail.com. You can just put in the subject line newsletter, and we'll go ahead and put you into that. Or you can just visit our website, Kimberly's Fabric Stash, and right there on that website you have a pop-up and you can just sign up right there. So it is a good little newsletter. We give you a recipe, we have a prayer corner, we show you new fabrics, new patterns, new classes that are coming up. So it's a pretty informative newsletter, and we don't spam you with newsletters. That's the only one we send out every week. So make sure that you sign up for that. If you also would like to, we have a mobile app for both Android and Apple products. So you can watch our live shows from the mobile app and shop from our store as well. So you would just search for Kimberly's Fabric Stash on your app page and you can download the mobile app. Tonight's products are going to be available on our website through the class products link. So you will see different things that we're using, and then you can always pop over to the class products and search for those products there. And if you have any questions, you can always shoot us an email regarding how to get something, because we do a lot of special ordering as well. So tonight I'm going to switch things up a little bit because I typically start with making the background, and this time we're going to actually start with the applique because there's a lot of little pieces in this, and I want to make sure that I'm not having them fall all over the floor and all those kinds of things. So we're actually going to start with the applique portion. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to our fabric cam, and you can see that we are all set up and ready to go for applique. We will get to the background, but I wanted to go over how we do our applique. And basically, as you'll see in the instructions, she gives you a list of the different fabrics that you need for doing the gnome, and she also gives you a pattern sheet inside. And this pattern sheet here is the one that we're using tonight. It says Fusible Web Reversed, and that is because she also includes instructions for people who have cutters like silhouette cameos and cry cuts, and they can actually scan that onto their software for those machines and cut them out with their cutter. So in this case, we're just going to be doing the Heat and Bond Light version, which is the paper version of Fusible for Fusible Applique. And Heat and Bond Light we really like because, as I've mentioned in previous classes, it is very easy to work with. It won't gum up your needle, and it's very forgiving. So if you need to, if you've kind of put something down and you need to reposition it kind of fast, typically you can do that a little bit before you've done a final pressing. Okay, so we really like the Heat and Bond Light and highly suggest that. And of course that's available in the store, so you can always go ahead in the store and get some Heat and Bond Light. And the basically what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how we go about tracing out the pieces for the applique. So right here you'll see the pattern sheet, and you want to use a pencil or something that is not heat soluble, because when we actually hit this with the iron, those markings are going to go away. So make sure that you're not using a friction pen or something that's heat soluble when you do the tracing. Okay, so Patchabilities does a great job of grouping their different sections here. So like this section here is all the little 4-leaf clovers, and that actually is going to be grouped and cut out on the green fabric that she has suggested for the clovers. And then the grasses are grouped together because they're going to be cut out off of the same piece of fabric as well. So she does a really great job of grouping the different fabrics together. Now, in this case, the hat and the mittens and the thumb are grouped together. However, what I chose for the hat, I changed my mind and did not want to do for the mittens. So I'm actually doing the mittens in a different color. And, you know, that's one of the things about, you know, doing your own applique, is the fact that you can change up, you know, different things and decide, well, maybe I don't want all my clovers to be the same color, and you can cut them out in different colors. So basically down here, we are going to have 2 right mittens because we're making 2 gnomes, and we're going to have 2 left mittens because, again, we have 2 gnomes. So I'm going to take my paper and we're going to trace on the paper side of the Heat and Bond light. Okay, so I've already started tracing with the right mitten there, and all I need to do now is come in and trace for the left mitten. So I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to trace this. Hopefully I don't break my lead here. And we're just going to easily trace this around. It's just a regular lead pencil. I'm not using anything special. Okay. And then I'm going to move my paper up here and capture those 2 thumbs. So we want to make sure that we get the 2 thumbs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the actual green fabric that I want to use for those mittens and that thumb piece. And at this point, I can go ahead and take my piece of fabric that I got here. And I'm actually going to scooch this over here now because I need to get into here. And what I'm going to do is, my iron is already hot, and I'll just flip back. That's the silicone applique sheet, but we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And what I'm going to do is, this is a wool pressing mat that is sitting on a piece of cardboard to protect my cutting table. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take, and the glue side on this is really rough. That's how you know it's the glue side. And this is the wrong side of the fabric, okay? So we're going to lay this right down, right on the wrong side of the fabric there. And we're just going to press this into place. Give that a good press. Make sure it gets nice and hot so that that glue melts into the fabric. And then we're going to go ahead and trim this. Now, if you have any questions while you're watching this video, if you're on Facebook, by all means, type your questions into the comment box, because we will be monitoring the video, and we will be able to answer questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's something that somebody else might want to ask as well. And of course, if you're on YouTube, you can certainly ask questions by commenting on the video. And again, we will be monitoring those comments so that we can answer any questions that you may have. So this is, now we're going to take our Karen K. Buckley scissors, again, which we have available in the store. And we're going to, as we cut this out, we're turning, you see me turning the paper, I'm not turning the scissors. You get a smoother cut when you turn the actual paper and not the scissors. So I'm just going to turn this paper and cut up our little mitten pieces there. Okay, I got 2 more. These are the thumbs, I believe. And so this is how we're going to cut this. And while we're cutting that out, I'm leaving the iron on because we will be getting to the iron. I could probably just turn that down for a little bit. I was really excited the other day. I got a new iron because I thought at some point this one is going to probably stop working right in the middle of a class. So because it's a very old iron, I've had it forever. I thought I better get one just in case that one decides to stop working. And then I'm going to leave the ones that say right mitt. I'm going to leave them off to the side for a second because I want to make sure that I remember that those are the right mittens. And then I'm just going to peel my paper back. Now, if I can easily peel that paper away, that means that the glue adhered properly to the fabric. And if I had to fight with it, that means I would have to hit it with the iron again in order for that glue to melt. So you should always be able to just easily peel back those papers, and it'll be shiny on the back side. That's how you know you have your glue. Okay, so at this point, again, I'm going to set these off to the side here, and we're going to bring in our silicone applique mat. And the reason, now you don't have to use one of these. However, I like using the applique mats because they give me the opportunity to position everything just like I want it prior to it going onto the background. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of pieces tonight in our kit in our arsenal for building out these gnomes, and there's some of these pieces are really small. So I'm gonna lay them out, and the trick to using the applique mat is that you can kind of build it, you know, at one time, and then we're gonna hit it with the iron, and the pieces won't melt onto the applique mat, and you'll see that in just a second. The pieces will actually lift right up off of the applique mat, and then I can just treat them as one piece. So we're going to build these out, and I'm just in the example she gave us, she shows us how to build it out. I can also just look at the picture that, you know, it came with, but I can, hold on, I gotta actually put his little face down and then do his brim of his hat. So I got to move this up a little bit. So this is one of the reasons I really like using these mats. We do have them available in the store. They are in stock. This is the 17 by 24. I just like using a big mat because even though we're just doing a little applique right here, there are times that we can get into doing full quilt blocks, and we have the block, and you know, there's a whole bunch of parts, and you can use these all the time for pressing just regular fabric. Even it has a very nice grip on it, so you can they're not just kind of sliding all over the place. So right now we have you know, we're building in the faces, and I'll probably have to move up. Well, no, his boots are right there, so kind of guesstimating where all this is happening here. But it looks like we have just a little bit of his face showing by the looks of the picture. So I'm going to pull this one up just a hair, and we're just gonna keep building this in. And again, if you don't have one of these mats, it's no worry. You can still build this out. However, you're going to be building yours out actually on the background, and you'll have to wait to make the background. But again, I wanted to kind of go over getting this down ahead of time, because usually what happens is I start making the background and the pieces start going kind of hit here or there, and next thing I know, I'm looking for noses and I can't find noses and all sorts of things. So okay, there's his nose that's going on there. And the trick to the applique mat is that all the pieces are touching each other. So that's what's going to make this work, is that this is touching this and this is touching that, and so on and so forth. So when we get down to his little shoes and those kinds of things and his mittens, we'll be able to, okay, we're gonna set off the kettles for right now. We don't need them just yet. When we get down to his shoes and everything, like right now, they're not like flying around someplace. So I'm gonna bring in all the components of the shoes, and let's see here. Should be 2 for each side, right? And then 2. All right. So we have, let me see here, right shoe, left shoe. So this one goes like, there's a, sometimes it's easy to look off the picture too. Okay, so it looks like we go shoe and then shoe, like that. Yeah, they kind of have a pointy kind of shoe thing going here. And it looks like the shoes are just into the beard. So we're going to do that. And we will have to put the buckle on in just a second. And then we have this shoe that goes here. And you know what? It looks like I have them way too low. So let me get them up here, because by the looks of things, this shoe should be like way up here with its topper. Let me make sure I put the topper on there. And that's the thing, while you're building these, you can be checking the picture to make sure that, you know, everything is going right where it should be going. Okay, so this one goes this way. I guess he's a little bit pigeon-toed here. His little shoes, his shoes are pointing in on himself here. So do that. And then we go, this goes this way. So the top of the shoe, and this one's here, and the top of the shoe as well. So we have these cool little tops to those shoes, and I think this one, actually, yeah, it goes like that. And then basically what's going to happen in just a second is we're going to go ahead and put, these are all touching each other, as I mentioned. And what's going to happen is I'm going to hit this with the iron, and the glue is going to, okay, there's his little buckle going down there. The glue is going to melt the pieces to themselves, but not to the applique mat. So that is one of the cool things about the applique mat and using that. So, all right, so we have a buckle here, buckle there. Looks like the buckles actually reach the top of the shoe. And I've managed to, where did the yellow go? Okay, we managed to cut out one set of buckles. So apparently, I know I cut out, yeah, apparently he's only one of them's getting the buckle right now. I'll have to go back and add a buckle. So that's okay. We'll deal with that later. And then at this point, we need to put his little mittens on. So the mittens are the dark green, and looking at all the pieces that actually touch. So we'll be doing the watering bucket in a second, because they come just right off of the mitten. And that watering bucket, let me just kind of put that there for right now. The watering bucket, anything that you can get to touch, you're going to want to do at this point. And like I said, you'll be able to, you know, peel it right up off of here, and then we'll be putting it right down on the, let's see here, right down onto the background. And again, we haven't built the background in just yet, because we want to, there's a lot of little pieces to this one. Some of the Patchabilities, they don't have a ton of pieces. This one really does. So, you know, that's one of the reasons we're doing it this way tonight, and that's okay. So just do that. And then there is the thumb piece that, okay, this is the right mitten here. And we're going to peel that back. I hadn't peeled that paper yet. So now I'm going to go ahead and peel the paper on this and make sure that I get this in the right place. So this would be his little right hand, which is going to be holding onto the watering can, which the very tip of that watering can is just touching the very tip of his glove. So, and then of course the little spout goes down. So that's why I saved peeling the paper off of the right mitt, because I wanted to make sure that I got that down at, you know, just in the right place. And then again, I'm going to move this watering can so that it is just touching, okay, that mitt. And that's the trick to using these applique sheets, is you're able to go ahead and make sure everything's touching and then iron it up or iron it down. So we're going to do that and that. And then he has a thumb here, and I believe it's not very clear, but I believe that this is a separate piece here that makes it look like he's actually holding the watering can. So we're going to go ahead and put the thumb on top of there, just so it looks like he's got his thumb right over top of that. So he's kind of grabbing the whole thing. And then right now, the only other thing that I could kind of add is a clover leaf, but I'm going to save the clover leaf and the grasses and the pot of gold for after we get the background built, because they really aren't touching the gnomes right now. And I want to, you know, kind of get these guys settled. So again, I'm going to just kind of fine tune everything. And this doesn't have to be a fast process. You could definitely take your time with it, move things around. If you want his hat to get a little, you know, on the one, if he wants to be a little sassy, you can turn his hat whichever way you want to. You can, you know, just make him into a sassy gnome and, you know, cock his little hat one way or you know, left or right or whatever. So it's just up to you how you want your gnome to kind of have personality. So we'll just, actually this goes down here. So sometimes it's just, it takes an extra minute to step back and look at it. Okay. And then once you've made that decision, this is how everything is and everything looks good, then at that point we can, let's turn our iron back on so it's nice and hot. And at that point, what we can do is get his little, everything pushed down correctly. So I'm trying to figure out what I did here and why these look so different. I think I have this. This should be, okay, this should be down more. Okay. I was trying to figure out why he looks like, on the one I have it right, and on the other one I didn't. It doesn't look like I have it right, but I can see now what I've done. So I'm going to just reposition this. And again, this is one of the things of, you know, just taking our time, looking at everything, and then deciding how that's going to play out. So nothing to it, pretty easy. And again, if you don't have the ability to do this ahead of time, you will have to build in your background and then put this on. Okay. So, okay, you guys, poof, they're bouncy today. All right. So here we have our two little gnomes. We have our two little shoes. I have to redo buckles on the one because somehow the buckle, I only drew for one set of buckles instead of two, but that's not a big deal. I'll just go back and add a second set of buckles there. And actually, I'm going to make sure that that's over top of the shoe, because sometimes you have, when you're doing these layers and everything, you kind of have to look at, you know, what would the aspect of the shoe look like. And in this case, the cuff is, it appears it's going over top of the actual shoe, just like probably a little gnome would have that. So at this point, everything is touching that I want to be touching. And I'm going to go ahead and press these guys down on the applique sheet. And again, I'm not melting the glue to the applique sheet. The applique sheet doesn't take the glue, okay? And they're down, okay, that's good. And I'm going to do this guy over here. And again, I'm just I'm not ironing back and forth or anything like that. I'm just pressing this all down. And I have to remember to get the tip of the watering can because I don't want that to fly off of there. So at this point, both gnomes are adhered in place. Okay, I can turn that back just a hair. And I'm going to let that cool, okay? And letting it cool is part of the trick to using the applique sheet. You don't have to, you don't want to just peel that right up. You want to make sure that it takes that extra minute to cool. And then what's going to happen is I'm just going to very carefully peel this right up. And now I have one gnome ready to go. And if I've done my job correctly on this side, I'm going to peel him up, and I have a second gnome ready to go. So at this point, and remember, all the glue is still ready and intact for when we're going to put it on the background, but I've taken care of that, and we're ready to move on to doing our background now. So I'm going to slide the camera over, and I can leave the applique sheet onto here. It's not going to hurt anything. And we'll bring the machine in, and we're going to be making sure that we have the machine with our 1/4 inch foot on right now. And I have an 80-12 needle in, and I want to make sure that I have the machine set up for the quilting stitch. So it needs to be set to a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is just a couple buttons on the machine for me to hit. And as I've mentioned, you do have to purchase the pattern in order to find out the dimensions of what the background is, what the inner border and outer border is. And those are the things that I won't be specifically mentioning in class. However, you would be able to follow along in your set of instructions as to what is the proper widths of what has been cut. Okay, so there are 2 borders that go with the background, and then so you have your inner border, and then you have a wider outer border, and then of course we're going to have binding pieces. Okay, so basically the way Patchabilities has you do this is she just has you sew down after you've trimmed your background to the size that she wants. She just has you sew down the pieces. You're not measuring the length and then cutting them. She just has you sew them down. So we're going to go ahead and do that and get the inner borders on. So that'll just take us a second here, and we're just going to right sides together. And I have the machine set up for like a 2.4 for stitch length. So I'm going to go ahead and 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we're just going to sew right sides together. Okay. Now in quilting, we would pre-measure the border to match the length of the background or the block, but in this case, we're just following along with the directions. So now that I've sewn down both sides, I'm going to go ahead and press that seam allowance and make sure that it is nice and flat. Okay, we're going to press that all out, get that, and we're going to make sure the iron's nice and hot again. Goodness gracious. Okay, press that all down. And then we're going to open that seam up, and we're going to press it again. So we're going to do that on both sides. And then we're going to add the top and bottom to the background as well. So we'll go ahead and press all this out and add the top and bottom, and we'll then do the outer border. Okay, so now that we have the top border, we're doing the inner, we just finished up the inner border. We have the top on and the sides, and now we're going to go ahead and repeat the exact same process for the outer border. We're going to attach the outer border, same way, sides and then top and bottom. So we'll do that and we'll keep going. Okay, so we've gone ahead and added the inner border and the outer border. And as per the instructions, we're going to go ahead and put down our gnomes and get them into place, and then we'll be talking about adding our backing and then quilting. So again, there is a placement guide in your set of instructions, and at this point, remember, we had already pre-fused him, and now we're going to add in the rest of those little pieces and make sure that we have everything where it's supposed to be. So we don't want him quite floating off the ground, and it's a little tight, and we're going to go ahead and put all this down like that. And I believe he has a piece of grass, or one of the grasses is next to him. So there's a larger grass that goes here in front of the barrel, or the pot of gold, I should say. And then there's a smaller grass that's going to go over here. So we're going to go ahead and put that grass down. And we're just going to get all this nice and arranged. And this takes a few minutes. This is not a fast process. It's just, you know, part of the fun of building the picture with the pieces and all that kind of thing. So want to make sure that we have a good time doing that. So here's our different coins. They're going to go here, and we'll be getting them more or less outlined to give them definition. So there's our big coin there. And of course we have our clover leaf, because this is for Shamrock Day. So we got our clover leaves going down. And remember too that one of the clover leaves has a on hat specification. So we want to make sure that that paper we leave on, and we save for the moment where now we're going to be putting this one down, and we want to make sure that that's the one that goes up by his hat. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we have all our pieces and got them down. I think I'll bring this down just a hair, and that's watering can's going to be just in front of there. And it looks like I have it pretty well with the picture. Got the pot of gold. We have our little coins there for the pot of gold. We have our big coin there that sits on top. Mr. Gnome is doing his thing. He's standing there with his little watering can, and one of his grasses came up here, so that kind of left the scene. We'll get that grass back down where that's supposed to be. Standing there as he's watering. He's watering his little shamrocks. And then at this point, what I can do, because I've done already all the other work for his getting his pieces together from the silicone sheet, is once I've checked everything here, it looks like I have, where'd that top go? Wait a minute, we've lost the top. So once we have, he hit the floor, see? It's always a thing. We always have something go on. There's his top to his kettle. So you have to be very mindful of where the pieces kind of end up. They can fly around the room on you, and you don't even realize it. So we're going to scooch this way, and we'll put that there just to make sure that goes on right. And we'll adjust this grass so that's there. And now I think I'm ready to go ahead and press this down and get this side of the table runner done, and then we'll flip over to the other side and do the exact same thing. Okay, so both sides have now had their gnomes attached. All their little pieces are down, and we're ready to go ahead and layer this up, do the quilting on it, and then and the applique, and then we can put the binding on. So what we're going to do is talk about how to attach that or put on the backing and the batting. I use the Quilter's Dream fusible. Sorry, I just realized that a couple pieces I didn't get very good here. We use the Quilter's Dream fusible batting. We do have it for sale in the store. And we really like it's called table runner batting because it's very thin and it doesn't have, it has a fusible side to it. So it really becomes super, super easy to make table runners when it's already like 24 inches or 22 inches wide. And then all you're basically doing is, you know, putting your table runner down, fusing it in place, and then, you know, of course, we'll deal with the background in just a minute, or the backing in just a minute. But literally, this is like the best stuff because it's fusible and it's thin. You don't want a table runner batting to be, you know, super thick or anything like that, just because it will make things very poofy looking. And for table runners, we're not trying to go for a poofy look. So, sorry, I've been struggling with this fold line, and I've hit it twice now with the best press to get it out, and it keeps coming back. So I'm not happy about that. But basically, what we're going to do is the fusible batting has a glue side that's rough and a smooth side. So what we're going to do is we're going to fuse this down to the glue side, okay? And it does like to have some steam applied to it, so make sure that you use a little bit of steam and make sure that your iron doesn't hit the glue side because it will gum up the bottom of your iron. So we're going to just press that down, okay? And then I'll move this forward a little bit so that you guys can continue seeing what I'm doing. I'll just roll him up. And again, we're just going to smooth this down nice and straight. Get him nice and straight there. Alrighty. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And again, yeah, the Quilter's Dream fusible table runner batting is what you're looking for. Again, we have it for sale in the store. It's a great batting. Again, because it's just a good product. It will leave your table runners looking really, really nice and nice and flat. Okay, so we've pressed all that down, and at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my backing piece, which is just this plain green Kona that I have here, and of course I'm going to press that all out. And the Kona is a little bit wider than the width of the table runner, so I'm going to trim some of this excess batting away, but I'm still going to leave probably 2 inches all the way around, and then that way when I quilt it, as the quilting pulls in, it won't pull that batting under the background or the borders, because if I trim this right now before I put the backing on and then I quilt it, that quilting will pull that batting in, and I'll end up with uneven borders. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a trim all the way around about 2 inches, and then I'll show you how I do my backing. Okay, so what we've done is we've pressed out the backing of the table runner, and at this point I have a couple choices. I'm going to either use my bone ash, which is a powder fusible, which is very, very lovely. It does not gum up needles, or I'm going to use my 505 spray adhesive, again, which is very lovely and does not gum up needles. So I'm going to show you both, okay? And we'll start with the 505. A can of 505, if you just do a lot of table runners, will get you a lot of table runners done. This is a very light application. You definitely want to shake it first. This can's a little cold, so we'll see how it goes here. And we're just going to give it a little bit of a spritz. Notice that I'm spraying the batting. I'm not spraying the fabric. You never want to spray the fabric because it will end up where you could have, you know, it needs to go into the batting, not into the back of the fabric. So what I've done is the length of the table runner's running to my left here, and I basically spray half of it, and then I bring this back, and then I'm going to smooth that all out and get that all nice and flat, right like that. Okay, smooth that all out, And that spray adhesive will hold that beautifully in place for me until I get over to the machine. And then, let me turn this around so you guys can see it. On the other side, same kind of concept. I'm going to, now if I'm on camera, so if I was just doing this off camera, this would be laid across my big table here, and you know, I would do half and then I would flip back the other half. So now I'm going to take my bone ash, and again, this is a fusible powder. This has been very, very popular. We have this for sale in the store. We don't have the 505 because the shipping regulations on the 505 are a little intimidating and very, very expensive. So we tend to let other stores carry the 505, but the bone ash we have in stock, of course. And then you just take that bone ash and now you hit this with the iron, okay, and you get that bone ash to go into the backing of the table runner. So we've hit that with the bone ash, and we're just giving that a good press all the way around. And then once that is done and that is ready to go, now comes the part where we can do our machine quilting on the runner and our applique. So basically, Patchabilities has us, according to the directions here, you're going to start at the center, okay? You always start at the center of anything you do anyway, and you go around all the shapes and, you know, into the borders and all those kinds of things. She says here that she did hers, and you can see this in the pattern, that she did like 4-leaf clovers and those kinds of things and swirls. So it's completely up to you how you want to how you want to go ahead and do your machine quilting. And you can use like sulky sliver, which has a little bit of sparkle to it, since this is, you know, like leprechaun and pot of gold and all those kinds of things, and set the machine up for like an invisible thread. You can use a metallic thread if you wanted to, or you could just use regular quilter's cotton and do your machine quilting that way. So now I will say that, you know, if you're on this like whiter background or whatever your background it is, you might want to go ahead and match that. And then I would personally change the thread out and do the borders in green, but that's me. That's completely, that's, you know, up for you, or up to you, okay? And so then she talks about how she, you know, kind of draws out her 4-leaf clover with like a friction pen, some type of disappearing marker, and that's a really great suggestion. So if you're not very good at, you know, free motion quilting, you can always go ahead and draw in your own 4-leaf clovers, you know, and then that way you have a pattern to follow. So at that point, you can, once this is quilted, you can do your machine applique, which we'll show, and then it's ready for binding at that point, and you can do your little bit of rainbow here with some embroidery floss. So basically, I'm going to set my machine up for some free motion applique, or free motion quilting. We'll get this quilted down, and we'll show you some applique. Okay, so I have the machine set up for free motion quilting. And if you are not comfortable with free motion quilting, you could definitely do this step with a walking foot. And basically, you know, you could do grid lines without walking foot and, you know, quilt this in just beautifully. That would be a really nice option here. And when we set up the machine for free motion quilting, we want to make sure that we drop our feed dogs, put on our free motion quilt foot. And again, we have our thread that is just a regular cotton thread. You can use a polyester thread. And basically, you know, just do whatever design that you feel most comfortable doing. So I'm going to just go ahead and start this, and then we'll come back so that you can, you know, see how we do the applique. So we're just going to do a little free motion quilting around, and then we'll go ahead and come back to Well, we're going to hit pause here for a second because that didn't do what it was supposed to do. Okay, so we got the machine back up and running. I didn't have the right setting on something. So we're just going to go ahead and just let this go around. We're going to do a couple of swirls, those kinds of things. And again, if you cannot make shamrocks and you want to draw them in, by all means, draw them in. If you want to do a different design, you know, let your imagination kind of take over and you can do whatever designs you want. And we're going to go ahead and just quilt the center of this as she suggests in the pattern. Okay, we have these fun little shamrocks. And again, you always start in the center when you do your free motion quilting, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then we'll come back and talk about applique. Okay, so once the machine quilting is done, we can go ahead and put on our applique foot and set the machine for applique. So today we're going to just use a basic blanket stitch. We have regular embroidery weight thread in the machine, which is a 60 weight. You can make your weight, you can do a 50 weight thread if you want it to appear a little thicker, or if you want to use a rayon, you can. And basically what you want to do is have a test piece done for your blanket stitch as far as how big you want the stitch to be used or how small, and run a test first and then go ahead and do the applique. So we're going to go ahead and just applique around his hat, and this is not a fast process. We take our time with it, slow the machine down a little, and this is a good time to use your knee lifter if you have one for your machine, and that will help you pivot all the corners. And there's quite a bit of applique on this table runner, so if you have a knee lifter, that would be a great tool to utilize. Okay, we're going to come into that corner there, and then we're going to lift up our presser foot. We're going to turn our work here, and then we're going to go into the next corner. Okay, we'll let that one more stitch there. You always want to have the needle down when you pivot, and then you go ahead and let the machine keep moving. So you never want to push those corners around. You'll end up with all sorts of, you know, missed stitches, or you'll end up with wrinkling going on, those kinds of things. So you definitely want to take a minute and pivot those corners with the needle down, turn and move, so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead and we're going to keep going around here, and then we'll talk about the binding. The instructions are really well written for binding, but we'll talk about setting that all up, and then you can go ahead and finish your table runner. And of course, remember too that we have our VIP page on Facebook, right here at Kimberly's Fabric Stash. So if you want to take your finished project and share it with everyone, by all means, you can do that. Again, it's our VIP page. There's a lot of sharing that goes on, and it doesn't just have to be this project. If you're working on any project, you can definitely share that. And if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you follow us so that you can see more great classes that we have. And be sure again to sign up for that newsletter that I mentioned. So make sure you hit that like button and follow, so that you can stay in the know on our classes. So we'll go ahead and we will finish up our blanket stitch all the way around. And once I get all that applique done, I will go ahead and trim. I will press everything out. I'll make sure that it's straight. I will take a ruler to it, make sure everything is nice and straight, and then that will help me trim my edges and make sure that everything's square, and then we can go ahead and do the binding. So let's talk about the binding for just a minute here. So our binding strips, typically for table runners, you are going to cut them not necessarily at 2.5 inches like you would for a quilt. In her instructions for the table runner, she has you cutting them at 2-inch wide strips. And if that seems a little too skinny for you, you can do a 2 1/4 maybe, that kind of thing. But basically, you prepare the strips. There they are. Hold on. Okay, they got away from me there. So basically what happens is to prepare your binding strips, what you're going to do is you're going to take your strips, give them a really good pressing. You can even like best press them at this point, you know, give them a little squirt of your best press or put in your sizing. And once you get them nice and pressed, what you're going to do is open them up and fold them in half wrong sides together, okay, just like that. And then give that a press, okay? So you want to have wrong sides together and you're going to press in that binding, okay, so it's nice and flat. And prior to that, I kind of got ahead of myself, sorry, 1 second. Prior to that, you need to attach the strips together. So I believe she has you cut 3 of these. So basically what you would do is you lay them out this way. Turn this kind of so you can see a little better. You put this one down this way, so it's going horizontally. Then you place this one on top vertically, like that. And then you're going to sew from here to here on this diagonal. And then that is how you join those binding strips together. So, especially when you need to switch the machine back over straight stitch. Okay, so yeah, so you're going to, this is how you do a join, okay? And then at that point, you're going to press that. You always press. Every time you stitch, you press, right? That's just the rule to sewing. You're going to press that, and then you can fold it back on itself, give it another press. And then once you've done that, you can trim away that bulk, okay? So you want to trim away like a 1/4 inch of that seam allowance there so that you don't have a whole bunch of bulk. So you join them this way. And then, you go ahead and press them in half wrong sides together. And then from there, she explains how to, there's a set of, in your set of instructions, it's how to put the binding on. And I'll let her explain that this time. We usually do that in our live classes, but for a recording, I don't want to take up too much more time, that kind of thing. So once you get your binding on, you're all set. You're ready to display your gnomes. And hopefully you've enjoyed this project with us today. So definitely leave a comment below. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And I will do my best to answer them, of course. And we will have more classes upcoming and in the coming weeks. So definitely stay tuned for that. And again, we just thank you for watching with us today. And hope you've had a great time in class and you've learned something. And be sure to check out our VIP page and share your project with us. So basically, you've done your Lucky Gnomes You Are from Patchabilities. And this is the pattern again. If you would like to get a pattern, you can always go over to patchabilities.com and download a PDF version and make your own in time for St. Patrick's Day, which is coming up in a few weeks. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Take care.